The NDIS is not designed for service providers. It's designed for people with disabilities and for families. And so you'll see a lot of things surface in the media about how challenging the change is for providers. And that always actually makes me feel really good because it means we're on the right path in terms of keeping the consumers at the forefront of that design. So I think once all of us actually get our hands on the scheme and get to participate and experience for ourselves, it will feel a lot less scary. And if not, we'll adjust it and tweak it and move forward. The scheme is being piloted around the country. There are about 20,000 participants, and the feedback is that it's all working well for them. The NDIS is also fundamentally different because the government will no longer decide how to allocate funding. You will. The money will go to the consumer, and you will decide which organisations thrive and which don't. You will be able to take your funding with you to the services and supports that you deem best for you. You will decide which services you like and don't like, and if there is a race to the bottom, then don't buy their service. Go somewhere else. Everyone wants organisations to deliver a quality service and at an attractive price, and that allows innovation and investment. And I think the nuances of changing the market so that the consumers have the power for the first time is already translating to quite a different approach from many service providers in how they engage people with disabilities. The feedback that we're getting, even from people that are in the scheme at the moment, is being treated like a customer is profoundly different. This is exciting because the market facilitation and insurance focus is creating a world that until 2013 was not possible. The scheme will include people with physical, intellectual, sensory and other disabilities, around 460,000 people nationally. It's about 1 in 10 people with disabilities, so it's the more severe end of the scale. Ryde, in fact, next year will be one of the first areas in New South Wales to roll out from July. From July next year, we will roll out 10,000 people per quarter onto the NDIS. It'll be a single national approach, so for the first time, you won't have to worry about your funding if you decide to move. I know people that would lose their funding if they moved from one side of the street to another, and so that's all gone. And a little bit of national consistency is a good thing. New South Wales represents about 30% of the NDIS, and so there are lots of interesting things in the works, if you like. It's not all flowers and roses. I don't want to leave you with the impression that it's raining cash for people with disabilities. It's not. Generally, if you're receiving services and supports now, you'll receive about the same amount of services and supports on average. If you have more complex needs or some unmet needs at the moment, then it's likely the scheme will pick those up. But the growth in funding and scale that you're hearing about in terms of doubling the amount of funding, that's generally because we're going to pick up all the unmet need at the moment. Around 50% of people at the moment that should be eligible for funding aren't receiving anything. And so the scheme will pick that up and address that. So when you hear about the growth, it's doubling the number of people generally. And that's really hard for all of these providers in the room because they've all got to figure out how do they double the amount of services that they're providing in a 3-year period. It's not also just about the incumbent providers, and this is a key aspect of the scheme. They're looking for new and different, not just more of same. And so, for example, niche providers, specialised services, digital disruption is already starting to show. This month, a tall ship, appropriately called Tenacious, left the UK, and by the time we roll out the NDIS, it will be parked off the Maritime Museum. It's fully wheelchair accessible and was built by people with disabilities. It is the largest wooden ship sailing on the planet. And so if you're up for it and you have a disability and you want to go and sail that around Bay Strait, you can. Such a service would not be possible under the current arrangements. Likewise, there's a new group in Sydney that helps you get to music festivals if you don't want to go with your parents. There are Uber wants your wheelchair accessible vehicle, and I'm supporting some work with people who are interested in creating customised 3D devices using 3D printing, and that reduces the cost of accessible technology. So, you know, there's a lot of cutting-edge stuff going on, and it's only just the beginning. Our historical experience with disability makes it very hard for us to see what might be interesting options. We're not used to being given choices like this. And so it's easy to believe that the sector won't create something new, or that you won't see that innovation. But under the NDIS, you and your families will have control over the services and supports you receive, and embracing that change will help create those opportunities. You decide what thrives and grows out of the scheme, and the future is in all of our hands.